Why did you move to Tennessee? Is intimacy a challenge now that you live with your parents? Boundaries you've set with your parents while living with them. What is your new house like? How many beds, bath? If this was our forever home? Sam's honest thoughts and feelings about living with his in-laws. So you mentioned feeling stuck because of interest rates. What made you feel sure-ready to move? What made you choose Knoxville over Nashville? What is Sam doing about work? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a catch-up Q&A because I've had a lot of changes in my life. I've moved from Atlanta to Tennessee. I'm living with my parents. We're building a new house. So I thought it'd be a great time to do a Q&A just to catch up and just to have a place to explain everything that's going on. So if you missed it in my last video, we kind of brought you guys through our whole thought process and decision making as to why we moved to Tennessee and what our next steps are and what everything's looking like. So if you missed that, be sure to watch that video just to kind of get like an understanding of what's been going on. I asked you guys on my Instagram per usual if you had any questions for me, and there were a ton. But if you want to be a part of my next Q&A or just see what's going on in my daily life, be sure to follow me over on Instagram because I post a lot over there. It's a little bit later, but I'm putting this in the beginning of the video because there were two things I wanted to mention. One, I have footage of us moving into this room and like setting it up and things like that, and I was gonna make a whole video about it, but I felt like there were just too many moving videos and I just didn't want to post another one. But let me know if you guys want to see that video of me like moving back into my childhood bedroom and like how we set everything up and just moving back to Tennessee essentially. And if you do, I can maybe post that video next week, but let me know if you'd want to see that. Number two, me and Sam have decided that we're going to start this Instagram page. I'll put it here. I think, what was the username? I think the username is the Knox Guide. Because we love Atlanta for the food and the things to do, we were like, we're determined to find the best restaurants and just like the best things to do around Knoxville. And we thought, why not just create an Instagram page to like post about it? Because I just feel like that's a great way to know things that are going on. So if you guys live in Knoxville or a local, you can follow the Instagram page if you want to see the good restaurants we find and things like that. Okay, I think that's it. So this is a good question to just start off with, which is, why did you move to Tennessee? So we kind of touched on this in our last video if you didn't see that, but long story short, we really wanted to be near my family, and we ultimately felt like that's what the Lord had for us as well. And that was our biggest prayer. Ultimately, we trust God's definition of good over our own. And it took us a long time to determine that that is what the Lord had for us, because for a very long time we didn't know. And once we came to that decision, it all happened pretty quickly, which I think is why it's probably a big surprise to you guys, because it's also been a quicker process for us as well. A similar question, it says, how did you and Sam agree on where to move? Love your channel. Thank you. That's really sweet. So we touched on this in our last video as well. We did not agree for the longest time on where to live because we just didn't know. Like neither of us had a confident idea of where God wanted us to raise our family and live. We knew that we were supposed to be in Atlanta while we were there. That's why we were living there, and we felt confident in that. And we were essentially just waiting for if we should move somewhere else, and it was something we'd been praying about for really like 3 years, a long time. During engagement and then into our entire marriage. And if you want to hear more about the in-depth process of how we decided that and how we prayed through that and how we got through like being on opposite pages to the same page, you can go see my last video. We both kind of spoke to that. Another question was, what is Sam doing about work? So he is keeping his same exact job. He will just be going fully remote come October. So through September, he will be traveling back to Atlanta Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So during that time, we've just been staying with friends, and it's actually been kind of a fun time. It's been a little hard because it is hard to be back and forth, but it's been a really good time for us to see our friends and really say our goodbyes. And it's been very emotional and just a lot to go through. What is your new house like? How many beds, bath, yard? So our new house is definitely bigger than our previous house in Atlanta. I think it's 5 beds, 3 baths. It's definitely much bigger, which we're really, really excited for. The yard is a decent sized yard. It's not as big as we would hope. It's definitely not on land. We don't have like acres and acres or anything like that. A lot of people asked if this was our forever home, and we definitely don't plan on it being our forever home, but we do hope to have kids in the house. I definitely would think more than one. It'd be great if we could keep this house as an investment home. That would be our hope, but obviously Lord willing. We definitely plan on staying in this house longer than we were in our last home. And then the next question is, are you getting to customize all the things in your new home you're building? No, we are not. So that is what is pretty sad about this situation. We're really excited that it's a new build just because of like, it's a new home, which is always really nice, but it's not like a semi-custom build where you can choose some of the things. It is like what you get is what you get. So thankfully we are gonna have white cabinets, which is better than some of the other options. There was like black and gray, and we didn't get to choose that. So we really just got lucky with that one. We can't choose floor colors, nothing. Like literally it is what it is. So with that, we have a lot of fun changes that we're gonna make, especially to the kitchen and the backyard are like our primary focus in the home. I had a lot of questions about if I'm gonna do the same decorations or if I'm gonna create a new style. So my goal with this home is to make it feel like a home because it's a basic builder grade house. So I really want to add things to make it feel custom and like our own. And I'm gonna change a lot of the light fixtures and things like that just to make it feel our own. And with this house having a lot of extra space, we have a lot of fun ideas as to what we'll do in each room. For example, one of the rooms we want to make like a movie room and just paint it black and do a projector in there and do something really fun like that because we don't have any kids right now, so we've got the space to do it. Somebody asked, are you getting new furniture / decor or reusing a lot of the same stuff? So kind of both. Since it is such a larger home, we are going to have to get certain things, but we also want to reuse a lot of the furniture that we already have. We need a new couch. That couch is on its last leg, but we'll use that couch until we get a new one. So somebody asked, what theme are you going for in your new home? I would say I'm going for a lot of character, right? It's a very cookie cutter home, so I want to make it feel like our own, and I think I would say I'm going for like a European cottage vibe. I definitely want to add more muted, darker tones, but not too many because if you know me, I love bright white spaces. I pulled in my husband.
What is this? What is a Q&A?
It's just a Q&A. Somebody asked Sam's honest thoughts and feelings about living with his in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
We've been getting this question a lot.
Yeah,
so
we really have.
Why don't you just answer? Because I don't want to answer for you.
I understand the question. I guess stereotypically that's maybe not the most ideal situation. It was actually my idea to come stay here. I knew it would be fine. We get along great. I'm definitely not here a lot just because I have to go back to Atlanta for work, but we will eventually be here full time for a little bit. I have no issues at all so far. I don't think there ever will be. I think it's great, and I always thought that from the beginning. That's why I suggested even coming here. So
I'm very blessed, I'll say that Sam and my parents, you know, just drive well. I feel like they're very similar in a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they love Sam, so that's also really great. Okay, then somebody asked, is intimacy a challenge now that you live with your parents?
Hasn't been.
For me, it's just weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's just hard for me to not think about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No.
But I mean, you're in your childhood home, or your room where you like grew up.
Yeah.
I bet that's really hard. You have the glow in the dark.
You probably can't see them.
You probably can't see them. The glow in the dark little stars on the ceiling, which is awesome.
I answer that question because that is something I've always been curious about. When people like move back in with your parents, I'm like, is that not weird? Nice. Okay.
Is that good enough?
Thank you for your time.
All right, buddy. Why don't you give me your lips?
So the next question is, what are you looking forward to most about living in Tennessee? I am looking forward to the slower pace of life. I think living in a big city, there's just a lot of big city vibes, right? Like the hustle and the like high work life and the wealth. Like I have never seen wealth like I have living in Atlanta. And I just miss the slower pace of life here. Like we got off the highway to like get off of our exit here in Tennessee, and we were just behind a truck, and in the back of the truck was just a ton of guys in the bed of the truck. And I'm like, that's the kind of environment I miss. Just like the slower paced life and just the more country side of life. And don't get me wrong, I loved living in a city. Like I've always had this heart to live in a city, right? To like walk to the grocery store and all the fun things. And it was fun for a time, but I think I'm just ready to kind of settle down and just live a slower paced life. So that's what I'm really excited for. So the next question is, have you been trying out new churches? And yes, we have. And it's not the most fun process. I mean, it's just hard every week going to a new church, and it's hard too, because it's like you have this checklist, and there's a checklist of things that are non-negotiable, right? Like, is it a Bible teaching church, right? Like, are they preaching the word? To us, something that's really important is true discipleship, right? And not just like, I'm not going to church to have a motivational speaker. I'm going to church to learn about God and how I can be a better Christ follower and glorify him. And so those things are like non-negotiable, and then obviously what they believe about the Bible. But then there's things like the kind of music, or I don't know, the size of the church, that aren't necessarily non-negotiables, but they are like kind of important. And so it's just a lot. But if we learned anything about our time in Atlanta, it was that God will call you to places you don't always want to go. Like whenever we first visited our church, I guess I can say it now because we're not there anymore. I always kept it private because I just wanted that to be private. But we went to Christ Covenant Church in Atlanta. And to be honest, whenever we first went, we were like, not the church for us. It was in a middle school whenever we went. Now they have a building and everything. But we were like, yeah, we're just not vibing with it, right? We just had our reasons, and we visited other churches, and we went back to Christ Covenant, and we both felt just this, like, this is where we need to be. And we didn't really want that, and that's where we found such great community, and we grew to really love it. Like, it's just, we were just so blinded by the things we wanted in a church that didn't matter. And so I trust that God will do the same thing here, right? Like, as long as we follow where God is leading us, we know we'll find a church home and be able to get plugged into community, because that's so important to us. But it can be draining to visit churches every week and just to see. I mean, we've only visited 3 so far, and all my family lives here, and they all go to the same church, which we're not opposed to going to that church. But we just wanted to do our due diligence and just visit other churches and see where God would have us. Okay, I love this question. Boundaries you've set with your parents while living with them as a married woman. This is a really great question. I think this is a really important conversation to have. I sat down with my parents, and it wasn't like super serious or just out to eat. And I said, okay, like, what are your expectations from us, right? Like, what would you not appreciate us living in your home, like doing, like leaving a mess, obviously, and things like that? Like, what are the expectations here? And so my parents told us the expectations, and honestly, most of them were revolving around Teddy, because they don't have a dog, right? So we need to make sure his poop in the yard's cleaned up and things like that. I need to vacuum because his hair is everywhere. And it was just a really good way to like lay ground rules, essentially. And then they asked us the same thing, and we were able to kind of give our thoughts and things that like we wanted to happen, didn't want to happen. And I'm very grateful, because my parents are just very mindful and respectful, and they understand that me and Sam are our own family unit. So it hasn't been an issue at all. And I know that if an issue arises, we can be honest and explain, hey, this is how we're feeling, and that they will respect that. And yeah, we almost didn't have that conversation with them, because our relationship, I feel like a lot of those boundaries have already been established and respected. But in my head, I'm like, it's just better to get ahead of things, and to think that through. And so I'm glad we did, because there were certain things that I definitely need to be mindful of, that I need to be reminded of. Like, I am a mess when I live at home, and that's very just not kind of my mom. And then other small things, like we agreed that I'll cook some nights and my mom will cook some nights. And my mom was like, you can feel free to use our groceries. Like, things like that are just good to have ground rules on. So I'm really glad we had that conversation, and I'm grateful that my parents are just amazing. Someone asked, did you say goodbye to the little boy you babysat? I haven't yet. Wednesday is my last day watching him, since Sam will be back in Atlanta for work. Like, I've been coming with him, and I've been watching him on Wednesdays like normal. And Wednesday's my last day, and I can't even think about it. I will bawl my eyes out. I love that boy so much, and it's going to be really sad. But they will be our lifelong friends. I know we'll see them. It just won't be as frequent. I love this. Somebody asked, is there anything we could be praying for? This is a huge change, and we would love to support. That's really, really sweet. I think the biggest thing to be praying for is that we can find community here. I mean, we have my family here, which is so great. But outside of family, to be able to have, true church community that we can be spurring one another on and really doing life together. is really important to us, and especially since we had that in Atlanta, going from having that to not having that is going to be really hard, so that we can just find strong friendships that are really rooted in the Lord. How did Teddy do with the move? He has done great. I think it's actually been really helpful that Teddy had stayed here a few times while we were traveling out of town. You know, he's familiar with this home, and anytime we came here, he would come with us, which I think has made it really easy. And I think he's been fine. Like, he hasn't really acted weird or anything. Everybody's asking, like, how close are we to family? And we're going to be really close to family, which is really nice. All of us, including like my siblings and stuff, are going to be spread out, but it's close enough to where it will be convenient. So somebody asked, do you feel like it's worth living somewhere fun before living by family? So I just think it's really healthy to live like somewhere apart from both of your families for the beginning. I just think it's a great way to really like establish your own family. You know, like you've left your father and mother and you are now one flesh. And so I think it was actually really healthy for us to do that. As hard as it was, like it was quite the adjustment for me to move away from my family, because my family feels like my best friends in some ways. So I think it is really healthy and great to establish your family unit. I'm not saying you have to do that to establish your family unit, but I definitely think it's probably really helpful and makes it easier to do that. Somebody asked, what will you miss about being in the city of Atlanta? I'll miss a lot of things. I mean, the biggest thing is obviously our friends that we have there, but outside of that, like the city itself, I'm just gonna miss the amazing food. And Flower Child. I'm gonna miss Flower Child so much. If they could create a location in Knoxville, my life would be made. This is more of a financial question. Somebody asked, you mentioned feeling stuck because of interest rates. What made you feel sure-ready to move? I am sure a lot of you guys can relate to this if you bought a house like pre-2022. The interest rates were crazy good, and now interest rates are much higher, and a lot of people feel stuck. I've seen so many memes where it's like, when your starter home becomes your forever home. It's just really funny. Honestly, we just felt like we were supposed to move to Tennessee, and we just had to trust God that, like, yeah, this might not be the absolute best financial decision, but we trust God with our finances. And so we did. We felt that we were supposed to move to Tennessee, and that means, you know, getting rid of a really good interest rate. And now I think there's some wisdom that you can use. It doesn't mean you just throw, you know, finances out the window. We weren't upside down in the house or anything, and we just felt it was the best decision for our family ultimately. What made you choose Knoxville over Nashville? So we actually really wanted to move to Nashville. I would have loved to live in Nashville because we liked being by a big city while still having the slower paced life of living outside the city. So we really wanted to live in Franklin. Franklin is like my favorite place in the entire world. But most of my family's here, and so it would have been really hard. We tried, we really did, to get everybody to move to Nashville. Just because my parents have such great friends here, and Emily's family is from here. So it definitely just made more sense to move to Knoxville. And Knoxville's a great family-friendly place. It's just the side of us that loves the city, loves the food, loves the things to do, and the convenience of it. So that's ultimately why we chose Knoxville over Nashville. A lot of your friends live in Tennessee. So we actually don't have a ton of friends here in Knoxville. So it definitely feels like we're starting from scratch. I've got one really close friend from high school, and then both of my roommates are from the general area of Knoxville, so I'll definitely have them here, which is really, really fun, and I'm so excited for. But other than that, like, I've got family friends, right, that I grew up just, like, being around, but, like, I don't have, like, best friends here that, like, we're, like, getting back into a groove with. So it really does feel like we're starting over. Which I think is actually really nice that Sam's not being like lumped into like my previous life, like high school Jaclyn or anything. Obviously, we know a lot of people here just from like growing up here. Okay, we'll end with a fun question. It says, what's your favorite coffee shop in Knoxville? So I'm a big Honeybee girl. Now there's a few locations of Honeybee around, and then Summer Moon is newer to me, but I've been loving it. And I know they have like a ton of locations, but they just got one in Knoxville, and I've been loving going there as well. But that's kind of like, it's definitely out of the city of Knoxville. It's like down south, kind of out of the way, but love it. So good. Oh, and then Wild Love Bakery. That is like, I'm so excited. They have the best croissants, delicious coffee. that will be my go-to for sure. I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. I hope I was able to kind of like clear up some questions and just kind of give you guys an insight as to what's going on. Before we close out the video, I would love to get any video recommendations from you guys. What to do during this season. Do you want to see the in-depth process of what we're doing to our home? Like, we've got a lot of fun plans. We're going to do some renovations and things like that. Definitely let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see in the near future on both YouTube and Reels. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.